Right now, the White House National Economic Council Director, Brian Deese. Brian, first, is there anything that policymakers can do that don't work for the Fed to bring inflation down?
Well, thanks for having me. And the answer is yes, that today's number underscores the challenge we have with energy prices that you were just discussing. But it also underscores why it's so important that the president is doing exactly what he's doing, making fighting inflation his top priority. And obviously, giving the Fed the independence to operate, as Stephanie just raised, this president is doing something that other presidents haven't, making clear that he will not politicize that process. But beyond that, there are steps we could take right now. Number one, Congress could pass the shipping bill that is in front of them to crack down on the exorbitant prices that ocean shippers are charging. We talked to company after company that says that prices that they have to pay to ship their goods is getting passed directly on to consumers. We could take that action to lower those prices. Second, we could take action to lower typical costs that families are facing right now, like prescription drug prices and the costs on their utility bills. And we could do that while also reducing the deficit. If we do that, then fiscal policy, the steps that Congress is taking, would actually be complementary to what the Fed is trying to do. Those actions would help. They would help a lot. They'd be the most significant thing that Congress could do right now. And the president and all of us are urging them to act.
So, Brian, what about the Fed chairman? I mean, at some point, I mean, as we would say in Northwest Florida, the horse is already out of the barn. And the horse isn't transitory. The horse is here to stay. We're up to 8.6%. That 8.6% could become 10, could become 12 if the Fed doesn't start acting aggressively. Does Chairman Powell and the Fed, do they need to jack rates up at a faster clip?
Well, central to what the president is doing is saying the Fed has the space it needs to do everything that it needs to take on inflation. And part of giving them the space to operate, part of giving them the ability to make hard decisions and use the tools that they have, is making clear that when they take those actions, when they use their independent judgments, the president is not going to politicize that process. That is the most important thing that we can do, that a president can do, and we can't take that for granted. Our past president was aggressively tweeting at the Federal Reserve Chair, but prior presidents were more quietly politicizing the process. You're not going to see that out of this White House, and that's why I'm not going to comment on the question of exactly the tactics they should use, other than to say you have a president that says fighting inflation is the top economic priority right now.
Brian, it's true, of course, that Russia's war in Ukraine is impacting oil prices. Yes, but I promise you the landscaper 2 days ago I talked to at the gas pump, who was trying to fill up 2 cans and backpack blowers and mowers in his truck, was not going, damn you, Putin. So what do you say to him? What do you say to families who can't afford all their groceries right now?
Well, absolutely. It's hitting families hard, and we get that. We really get that. That's point number one. Point number two, it doesn't make people feel any better, but it is important in diagnosing the problem here. And the problem is that the price of gas at the pump is now up about $1.70 since Putin began amassing troops at the border. That is the impact of war. It's not fun. Nobody likes it, but we have to stand against that aggression. So then the real issue is, what can we do to blunt those increases, and what can we do to get relief to families? And the thing that I would say to them is that you have a president who is focused on saying, how can I blunt the increase in gas prices? How can I blunt the increase in oil prices? But also, how can I bring down the other costs that they're looking at when they're trying to figure out their monthly budget? So if we can bring down prescription drugs costs for that landscaper, if we can make their utility bill a bit lower over the course of the month, that will give them some relief, even as we're working to try to bring gas prices down. There are things that we can do on that front, but it's not the only place that we should be focused.
Brian, I know the White House was disappointed when Build Back Better didn't pass, but given how much it would have contributed to inflation now, in hindsight, is it a positive that it stalled out?
Look, I think that when you look at the fact that the proposals that the president has put forward, every one of them was fully paid for and fully offset, that it wouldn't have had an upward impact on inflation. But I think the point right now is we have an opportunity to take some of the steps that I was talking about to lower costs for families and reduce the deficit. I don't want to lose sight of this fact that the deficit has come down by a historic amount so far this year, but we can build on that. And we can build on that with tax reforms that would actually improve the efficiency of our economy and also be complementary to what the Fed's doing. So the answer to your question is the president has consistently proposed ways to pay for the things that he's proposing. But right now we have an opportunity to not only do that, but actually reduce the deficit as well. We should harness that opportunity. We should act immediately with the urgency that the situation deserves.
Director of the White House National Economic Council, Brian Deese, thank you so much. And Stephanie Ruhle will be watching the 11th hour weeknights at 11 p.m. Eastern. How many hours from now is that?
That's like
11.
She's a warrior.
Okay, that does it for us this morning and this week. Jose Diaz-Balart picks up the coverage right now.